Time and time again, developers think that identity politics is going to sell copies of their games, but it never happens. And unfortunately for this brand new studio, they have fully embraced woke identity politics and they are getting absolutely roasted for it. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, we have seen quite a few DEI shooters released over the past couple of months, specifically with a game like Concord. It released, it was an epic failure, and Sony pulled it only 2 weeks after launch. And it seems that this studio is doing the same exact thing, trying to market their games to a modern audience, which of course is not a good strategy. So this is actually a minimal effort article. It says Concord will undoubtedly go down in history as one of the greatest failures in the modern gaming era, costing between 200 to 400 million and taking the better part of 8 years to develop. This absolute monstrosity of a game managed to become the target of mass ridicule and mockery for its hideous character designs, boring gameplay, and $40 price tag. Games such as Concord, Dustborn, Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, Alan Wake 2, Star Wars Outlaws, etc. have all proven that developers who push the tenets of DEI in their games are only furthering the divide between gamers and game developers rather than bringing them closer together. I say this all the time. Diversity and inclusion are good things. The problem is forced diversity and forced inclusion. It is when developers are doing things like making characters or writing dialogue that specifically pushes a narrative so they do not get canceled for a lack of certain types of characters, so they do not get called ists and phobes. I do genuinely believe that a big reason why we're seeing such a push for DEI is not only because they want all those sweet, sweet ESG dollars, but because they're afraid. They're afraid of creating content that could be seen as offensive. They're afraid of getting canceled. They're afraid of their titles being boycotted. And if they just simply focused on making a genuinely amazing experience, instead of going down a checklist and checking off as many boxes as possible, they would be doing significantly better than they have been. But we look at something like Firewalk Studios and Concord. Sony bought them years into the development cycle, clearly because they were making a DEI modern audience shooter. And unfortunately for Sony, that cost them hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's a complete and utter disaster. And the same exact thing is going to happen with this game because it's basically Concord 2.0. This new extraction shooter known as Project Ethos looks like another soulless mashup between, of course, current titles like Fortnite and the now extinct PvPvE extraction shooter, The Cycle. I personally like PvPvE games. Unfortunately, we just don't see a lot of them now. It goes on to talk about 31st Union, the studio from 2K and whose president is the former Sledgehammer co-founder, and this game has been in development for 5 years at this point. They have not actually released another game. This is the only project that they've been working on as far as we're aware, and sure, you can have a team of industry veterans, but at the end of the day, if you are creating a very bad product, I do not care who you have on your team. I do not care if they are diverse and inclusive. I don't care if they're veterans. I simply want an amazing video game experience, and we're not seeing that from a lot of studios right now, and this just looks like modern audience slop, and I'm clearly not the only person that agrees, because while IGN had uploaded this first hands-on impression to their channel, which just looks, again, like Fortnite, kind of meets Splatoon almost. It's got 34,000 views, but 356 likes to 1.7k dislikes. We have seen so many titles over the years released that look similar to this, and they are all uninspiring. Like, I do not view this and go, wow, this looks really cool. I truly want to play this, and I can totally understand that this may not be a completely, done or again completed build of the game because this is just a first impression, but if you're showing it off, that means you're feeling relatively confident in what you're providing people, and this to me just looks abysmal. I'm not seeing anything with these character designs that looks cool. The gunplay doesn't look very good. It just seems like they're trying to create another Fortnite, which I get developers that are working together for the first time, want to create something that they believe is going to be a success story. But when you are focused on simply DEI and you're making a game that looks this mediocre, it's not going to pay off for you. And sure, once this releases, it may be fun. It may be fantastic, a breath of fresh air. I can't judge a game completely off of the character models, but visually, it just looks so unappealing. There's no cool aesthetic here, and the gameplay looks like a million other titles. There's nothing that I have seen so far throughout their promotional material, their website, the YouTube videos that makes me go, oh wow, that's actually pretty cool. I do not see a reason why this game needed to be made. And of course, they're allowed to make it, but I'm also allowed to heavily criticize it. And I certainly have a lot of criticism so far. And if you take a peek at their website, they have job openings for people in narrative design and writing that heavily encourages the idea that pushing DEI is a primary job requirement. I can't say I'm particularly shocked, and I wouldn't be surprised if they hired somebody who is an activist. I do not know the team behind this game. It is a brand new announcement, and I will definitely do some research into these individuals, but it seems that they probably have a slew of activists within their ranks, judging by the fact that where they've posted about hiring, they are pushing DEI as a primary job requirement. One of the required qualifications for a writer is, quote, strong passion for storytelling in games and an understanding of how to create representative and authentic characters by leveraging knowledge of today's pop culture and entertainment landscape, aka knowing what is going on in the culture war and what Gamergate 2 is all about, and being able to create characters that own the chuds. I just can see it from a mile away that this is what they actually mean. I can read between the lines where maybe other people can't. Maybe they do genuinely believe that we're absolute idiots, but we're not. And we can see what you're doing and the way that you're trying to word it. You're not sneaky, you're not smart, you're not funny. And they're talking about how they have a passion for diversity and representation in games and game development. Sure, I want my game developers to be passionate. I want these people to care about the industry, but having a passion for diversity and representation specifically calls out to people who are looking to push identity politics into titles and ultimately push their own narratives into video games, whether it's in the main story, whether it's character backgrounds, all these different things. There's a million ways that narratives can be pushed and identity politics can be pushed, like with Dragon Age the Veilguard, for example, having top surgery scars as a toggle. They made a big fuss over it, trying to get the modern audience interested, but the modern audience doesn't actually exist, and the few hundred people that could be considered that are really just sensitive snowflakes on social media. So right now, this initial trailer is getting absolutely roasted. It's getting ratioed. There's tons of people saying things like, I've seen this game like 400 times in the past 10 years. It's getting old now. How many times do I have to teach you this lesson, old man? And how the hell are these games getting greenlit? I completely agree. It is a one-to-one Fortnite clone. And we don't want to see this anymore. We just want to see things that are new, that are interesting, that are unique. And sure, everything is a copy of something. You're inevitably going to have mechanics or visuals that look similar to another game or another piece of content, but you could at least strive for originality, and that is not what they are doing. So I will be keeping my eye on this to see if the studio reacts. It wouldn't shock me if they call us all ists and phobes for simply criticizing their game, and also the fact that they have fully embraced woke identity politics. But for now, that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.